So, I just saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Let's talk about that.
To my right is Bounty Law Series lead and Jake Cahill himself, Rick Dalton. And to my left is Rick's stunt double, Cliff Booth. So, Rick, explain to the audience exactly what it is a stunt double does.
Actors are required to do a lot of dangerous stuff. Cliff here is meant to help carry the load.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Now, if this is your first time, welcome. If it's not, welcome back. I am that guy on the motorcycle who reviews movies, and this week we're going to be talking about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Now, it's kind of hard to talk about this movie without talking about the director, Tarantino. But before we talk about Tarantino, I am in the mountains. So, if you hear me stutter or whatever, I'm just concentrating. It's kind of hard being in the mountains, twisties and turnies, and thinking and talking at the same time. But with all that being said, let's get right into it. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Now, this movie takes place in the 60s, I believe 68, 69, and following the character, his name is Rick Dalton, and he is an actor. And he was a big-time actor back in the 50s, doing westerns. And, you know, a couple years later, I guess he's just getting, not to say washed up, but he's not top dog anymore. You know, there's new westerns coming in, new actors coming in, and his little buddy Cliff, his stunt guy, Cliff, who's always been there with him. It's just about, this movie is about him, Cliff, another character, Sharon Tate, played by Margot Robbie, and the adventures, I don't want to say adventures, but the what's happening and the goes and ons is, I have no idea what that means. This movie is about these characters and their story, and what takes place. Now, watching this movie, I would say this is the first time after watching the movie I had to Google events or characters or situations. As soon as I left the theaters, before I even got into the car, I Googled. So I know before coming into this movie, there was a little history with it, you know, with Tarantino using some real world events. Now, I didn't really search it before this movie because I wanted to go in blind, because it's a Tarantino movie and I'm just going to watch whatever Tarantino does, because Tarantino is one of my favorite directors. There's a few directors that no matter what they put out, I will watch, and Tarantino is one of them. The other two is Nolan and Edgar Wright. No matter what those guys put out, I would watch it. Now, like I said, I did not know the backstory with some of the real life events, because in this movie there are real characters, there's fictional characters and there's non-fictional characters, names and likenesses, I guess you could say, that's being used. And I didn't know anything about it, so going into this movie and watching it, it kind of surprised me. I'm like, oh, that was a real life thing. So that was crazy. So I don't know if you guys should probably get a little bit of information before watching this movie. I would say probably not, because going in blind, it kind of threw me. I was just like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. But with all that being said, I would say that it is still, I gotta pass this guy right here. I would say that it is still a pretty cool idea, a pretty cool concept. Now, it's basically, you know, Rick Dalton, he's kind of hit his peak, you know? He was top dog in the beginning, and now it's kind of washing up. Not really washing up, but, you know, just trying to find a name for himself now. And I guess that's as much as I can say without actually giving any spoilers. Now, what worked for me in this movie? What worked? What didn't work? What did I like? What didn't I like? What could have been better? Honestly, I think this movie really worked for me. There's a few reasons. Tarantino, and I know, yes, he is the director of this movie, but his style and his name is so much over this movie, where it's just like, this is Tarantino. Like, if you know, Tarantino is like a glass of wine. Like, it's an acquired taste. Well, not a glass of wine, but Tarantino is like wine. It's an acquired taste. It's like you either love him or you hate him, you know? And it's just like, and we all know Tarantino's style. And we all know even from his cuts to his dialogue to his edits. It's just like, this movie is very much in the Tarantino vein. So if you love Tarantino, you're gonna love this movie. And I would say I actually really love this movie. This movie is not for everybody. This is a rated R movie. You know, it's adult themes with adult things, and it's one of those things where it's just like it takes place somewhere. It blurs the lines in between fiction, non-fiction, what really happened, because there's certain scenes in there where they're actually using real people's names in real locations. Well, real locations, duh, but real people's names in the movie. But you know, Rick Dalton and Cliff, they're fictional characters. But I would say I really enjoyed this movie. I feel like this movie for me would be like his last movie, Hateful Eight, where I went into Hateful Eight, I liked it, I was just like, oh, okay, I really liked it. And the more I started thinking about it, the more days that passed with Hateful Eight, I was just like, wow, I liked it even more. And every time I would think about it, I was like, oh, okay, I love that, I love that. So most Tarantino movies for me doesn't really do that. It's like I like them like perfect movies as soon as I see them. But I would say this one and Hateful Eight is ones that actually grow. It gets better the more you think about it. It gets better the more with time. And I feel like with time, this movie probably would be one of his best movies. Now, I think the standout in this movie, just like in Inglourious, well, Inglourious, it was more of Christoph Waltz, but Brad Pitt was pretty cool in Inglourious. And I would say in this movie, Brad Pitt steals the show for me. For me, in my opinion, I think Brad Pitt made this movie, you know? And it's just like his character, Cliff, was a pretty cool guy. His backstory was pretty cool. It was kind of sketchy, like, you know, whatever, we're not going to get into it. But it's just like, I really loved his character. I really loved what he did with it. And just like every other Tarantino movie, you see some returning faces, you know, and that's pretty cool. The scene where, and again, this is no spoilers, the scene where we see it in the trailers where he's fighting Bruce Lee, he's just like, my hands are registered weapons. Like that scene, there's a few scenes that's like, oh my goodness, it's hilarious. That scene was actually pretty funny, the whole scene. Like there's a few scenes in this movie, the end of the movie, the last 30 minutes of this movie was bananas. This movie was crazy, and we know what Tarantino brings as far as action, violence, and dialogue, and all of that good stuff. So going into this, I was kind of waiting for it. I was like, this I don't really see much right now, but oh my goodness, the last 30 minutes of this movie was crazy without giving anything away. But I would say it's kind of hard to talk about this movie without spoiling it. I don't want to spoil this movie. I don't want to spoil this movie, I should say. But I would say that this movie, if you're a Tarantino fan, like I said, Tarantino's not for everybody. His style, his direction, the way that he shoots, I happen to like it. Not everything, but for the most parts, I happen to like almost everything that he does. And when I say almost everything, I kind of mean everything. So going into this, just know that. What would I give this movie? I know I didn't speak that much about the movie, but I kind of want, you guys just kind of have to go watch it yourself. You know, I'm going to give this movie a strong recommend. So just go out and watch this movie. Like I said, this movie is not for kids. This movie is not for everybody. But it's just like, if you know that style, if you know him, you're going to love this movie. There's like so many scenes I want to talk about. Like I said, the Bruce Lee scene and the last 30 minutes and the acting scene, the preparing for the lines. Like there's so many scenes in this movie I really want to get more in depth with, but I kind of don't want to do that because it's kind of spoiling the movie. But I would say Brad Pitt was a breakout star for me in this movie. Leonardo did his thing. Everybody really, there's nobody in this movie that you know was kind of bad. And just taking place with, you know, the real life, you know, some real life events, and you know, fictionalizing it just a little bit was just like, wow, it was wild for me. Like, I did not know that. It threw me for a surprise because I was just like, wow, I did not know that happened. Like, I didn't know who Sharon Tate was. I know who Charles Manson was, but I didn't really know what his deal was. So that kind of threw me for a loop. But other than that, guys, like I'm just keep on going around and around in circles. But I would say go ahead and watch it. If I was to rate this movie is going to get stuck in fifth gear for me. I'm going to give this movie a 5 out of 6. Now, I feel like with time this movie is going to get better. So that with a grain of salt. Now, I'm saying that. Am I saying that because I'm a Tarantino fan? Yes, maybe. Am I saying that because it's a great movie? Great movie. I'm going to say it's a really good movie. Not a great movie. Maybe not yet. But, yeah, take that with a grain of salt, guys. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I know I didn't really speak much upon it, but, like I said, it's kind of hard to review without really getting into the nitty-gritties of the film. Now, before I leave, I just want to let you guys know that this video is sponsored by Chic Riot. Who is Chic Riot? Chic Riot is an all-female motorcycle jacket brand. If you're a female and you ride, or if you're a female and you're in the back, you still ride. It doesn't matter. Check out Chic Riot at www.chicriot.com. Now, I want you guys to do me a favor. I want you guys to tell all your friends, tell your moms, tell your G-mama that, hey, there's this new channel, and it's the guy, he's on a motorcycle. He's actually pretty, I'm gonna pull over right here. Pull over right here. So there's this guy, right? He's on the motorcycle, and he's doing, you know, pretty cool things. So tell your friends about that, and tell your G-mama. So until next time, guys, I'm pulling over, I'm stopping, I'm in the mountains, I'm gonna breathe, I'm gonna take some pictures, and until next time, peace out.